This is Bob Beckel.
This is Cal Thomas, a conservative who is pro-life,
A liberal who once worked for Jimmy Carter,
who favors smaller government,
who believes in big government.
and in a town full of cheap shot artists, I've never heard Cal take a cheap shot.
But even when he's wrong, he's likable. And this is Common Ground.
And this is Common Ground.
Welcome again to Common Ground, a video version of Bob Beckel's and my bi-weekly USA Today column in which we try to figure out how to bridge Washington's partisan divide. Today, the topic, the war on terror. And Bob, despite some efforts by people in the Obama administration, including Attorney General Eric Holder, who refuses to say the words radical Islamic terrorism, it is still a war.
I'll tell you one thing. It's a war the terrorists are winning then if that's the case. Because, look, you know, this recent event in Times Square, right? We've got this guy. If I saw that tape of that Nissan Pathfinder, whatever that thing was that guy was driving, one time I saw it 1,000 times. And what the terrorists got exactly what they wanted. A whole lot of people scared. And that includes, by the way, my daughter, who knows I go to New York every week and knows I'm near Times Square. They shut down Times Square for blocks around this thing, made a big deal out of it. In the meantime, people are dying of tornadoes in Oklahoma. We've got to stop overreacting to all this stuff.
Problem, though, with tornadoes, Bob, is that they don't have a religious or philosophical position on destroying the country. The radical Islamists do. And while this is one guy, he is part of a larger problem. These are people who've been to madrasas. These are people who study under imams like this guy who used to be in America, now is in Jordan, influenced the Fort Hood shooter, influenced this guy, is influencing others. They want to destroy us. They say so. They say so openly. It is a war on terror. And if we treat these people as just, you know, misguided or criminals, I think they're winning. They are winning.
Misguided is exactly the right word. Look, you've got this. You had the shoe bomber with an IQ probably less than 80. You had the Christmas
underwear bomber. Yeah.
And now we got the Times Square bomber. All of them were.
And the Fort Hood shooter. Don't forget
well,
him.
yeah, but those three guys particularly, we spent all that attention on, had low-tech weapons. They were not very well trained. This was not a well-organized operation on the part of all three of them. I mean, you put the three of those guys together, you don't get one IQ of, say, mine, for example.
Bob, but those are the kinds of people who are useful to these people, who won't think, who are mind-numbed, and who will follow some imam even to their own death. Those are the kinds of people they want to recruit. And if we treat them as just criminals who want to hold up the local convenience store or rob the bank, we're making a huge mistake.
By the way, if I told you I like your tie,
yeah, thank you.
I don't know if I told you.
Yeah, we shop the same place.
Look, here's the other part of this about overreacting. Not only do we cover this stuff 24 hours a day for weeks, but the National Mall looks like an armed camp.
Yeah.
The Supreme Court made the decision to close their central visitors door for the first time in the history of the Supreme Court because of maybe some perspective or proposed or idea there may be a terrorist attack. Look, we've got to get back to being able to live our lives in a reasonable way.
I wish we could, Bob. I have a picture on my wall at home of my mother, 11 years old, standing next to Warren Harding, along with her mother and her mother's mother, my great-grandmother. 1922, my mother used to tell me stories that she would go in to see later President Coolidge. She would just see the guard at the gate who would recognize her and wave, "Come on in, Barbara," and she did. Those days are gone. Metal detectors used to be something you'd take to the beach to find loose change. But that's not the world the way it is today. We have a resolute enemy who doesn't mind dying in order that we die. And by the way, it doesn't matter just low-tech weapons. They're trying to destroy our economy and way of life, not set off one nuke that destroys the entire country.
First of all, look, I'm not suggesting that if one of these bombs had gone off, any of the three of those guys, a lot of people would have been killed. There's no question about that. But the point is, you don't alter your entire lifestyle of a country and scare ourselves and scare our kids over something that is very rare. The police can take care of it, which, by the way, brings me to another point. I noticed that everybody got so upset when particularly the right-wingers got upset when the Times Square bomber was given his Miranda rights. The guy is a U.S. citizen. He's got Fifth Amendment protection rights like everybody else. You got to stop taking away rights from people simply because they get in a situation like this.
Well, who was more upset were some people on MSNBC I saw who wished that it had been Tea Party people or right-wing extremists instead of an Islamic terrorist. But look, You got to give a lot of credit, as reluctant as you might be able to do this, to the strategy and to the structure that was implemented during the Bush administration. President Obama is benefiting in large part because of the Department of Homeland Security, the Transportation Security Agency, as frustrating as it is to travel. But these people are not going to give up, and we have to be resolute and attentive, or if we're not, they're going to get through
Right,
more
look,
of it.
let's see if we can find some common ground here. Let's go to the root of where the problem is here, and that's Pakistan. These guys were trained in Pakistan. This is a Times Square bomber, was trained in Pakistan, probably funded out of there, out of the Northwest Territories.
Right.
Now, the Pakistanis have done a good job in the last year going after terrorist cells that have been a threat to their own country. They've been less inclined to go after those that are preparing to do damage to the United States or Europe. And frankly, if we don't deal with that, and they don't deal with it, then the United States is going to have to deal with it itself. I mean, if we have to increase drone attacks on those Northwest Territories, if it means, regrettably, we might have to put some special forces on the ground. And beyond that, I'll tell you one thing that I think we need to do, and it's going to really upset the Pakistanis, but I think if you're from Pakistan, unless you're doing business here or you're a student, that you're not allowed to travel here until we get this cleaned up.
I agree with that, Bob, and we had the same kind of things during World War II with Germans and Japanese. Some people believe, and I certainly do, that we overreacted with the camps for the Japanese Americans. But you're right, something needs to be done. Secretary of State Hillary Clinton has even suggested that if the Pakistanis don't step it up, then the United States is going to take more forceful action. I think she's right in that, and I think you're right.
Well, good. Thank you for saying that. By the way, you can't. I guess there's nothing you could do to keep ultra-conservatives out of America, is there?
No.
Okay,
You need us, Bob.
Yeah, right. Hey, listen, check out our column in the paper and on USA Today's opinion blog at usatoday.com. Thanks for tuning in, and come back again for the next installment of Common Ground.